Well, I haven't made a film for a while. I'm in the middle of rebuilding the gearbox and overdrive, and this is the main shaft in the gearbox, which is in very good condition. All the gears are good. I've replaced these are new synchro rings that I've bought to replace the old ones, which were a little bit worn. So it's got all new synchros in there. This is the third gear synchro hub. Another synchro ring there, all in very good condition. I've also been rebuilding the overdrive, and I meant to take some film of that while it was in bits, but I forgot. But I will take some film of that. Here's the lay shaft, which again is in very good condition. There's no real noticeable wear other than what you would expect. Sorry, that's the lay gear. I'm going to replace the lay shaft though. It's actually pretty good, and initially I thought I'd keep it, but there is a little bit of wear in the end, on the end sections there, and it's just such a terrible job to get the gearbox out that I think it would be a bit silly not to replace it at this point. And that's got new bearings I've bought for it as well. So the next step really is to just wait for the lay shaft to arrive, and continue with the overdrive. And it's the 2nd of November 2013. Well, here's the innards of the overdrive, and again I meant to take film of this before I put this back together, but I've put some gasket sealer on this brake ring here, and that's set, and I don't really want to pull it apart again now, but it was all in very good condition really. I couldn't see any issues. The end float with the sun wheel here, the sun gear rather, appeared to be really good. I'd replaced the this couple of these little washers here, which give the end float. And I think the end float is within spec, so I tried to measure it in my dial gauge, and that seems to work all right. I've got a new set of clutch springs here, which go on these little doovers here. The old ones were sort of varying lengths. The accumulator piston and housing, which is down inside there, I took that out and I replaced the rubber bushings on rubber seals on the housing. The piston was good. The rings were all good. A little bit of slight scoring inside the bore, but I cleaned that up with some very fine emery paper, and I think that'll be okay. Time will tell, I suppose, when I go to push the button and see if it works. It's a fascinating piece of equipment. The overdrive, I think, is just really quite beautiful. Little rubber seals in there have been replaced. This is the oil pump. I didn't remove the oil pump. I didn't think I really needed to. It was a bit tricky to get out. But here's one of the operating pistons, which goes into this here. There are two of those, of course, and those are in pretty good condition, and the rings are all good and everything. So I'll be just putting those back in and using those. So really, all I did in the overdrive was replace seals, a couple of the bushes, shims rather, just to get the float right, and springs, and that's about it. I'm not replacing the accumulator spring, which is this big one here. I was going to, but it's the length it's supposed to be, so I think that's sort of pretty good. So we'll go with that and see. And a lot of this stuff I can get at if I need to afterwards, without taking the gearbox out, if there are any problems. But the whole overdrive rebuild has actually been quite good fun, and it's not as tricky as it might appear to be. It's just a beautiful, really, really clever piece of engineering. And it did work before I took it off the car, which is a good sign. It was a little bit dirty inside, but not incredibly so. A little bit of sludge. I took I took this, where is it, this Welsh plug out here and replaced that as well and cleaned that in there. So, you know, it's pretty well, I think it'll be pretty right. Time will tell. We'll see what happens when I put it back in. It's the 2nd of November 2013. Well, here is the inside of the overdrive, and the reason we're seeing this is because I didn't line these little doovers up properly and it wasn't fitting, so I had to pull it to bits again. And I did know that I had to do that, but I didn't do it properly. So anyway, these are the Planet wheels. There's the clutch inside there, the unidirectional clutch, and that's the annulus, and you can see it's all in very good condition. It's very important to get these little dots lined up, and I thought I had, but clearly I hadn't, or something moved, so I've got to start all over again. But there you go. So I've just located the main shaft in there, which is quite tricky to do, and if we turn that, we can see how it all operates. I can't go back that way, which is probably right, because the unidirectional clutch stops it from moving. So that's the inner workings of an overdrive. Beautiful piece of machinery. So here's a little video just to finish up. The box is back together. I think it's okay. And this, I've just fitted the main shaft into the splines to make sure they fit. The cam that operates the oil pump isn't fitted at the moment. I didn't put that on. But that's the deal. So there it is, a rebuilt overdrive with the main shaft from the gearbox pushed into it. And here is the other half from there that goes on the top, the third gear. I haven't put it on at the moment, it's just separate, because that just comes off. Well, it's the 8th of November, and here is a rebuilt overdrive and gearbox and overdrive. I struggled a little bit, but it's all together. I think it's fine. We'll see what happens. All the gears work. The lockout switch, which is just there for the overdrive, works. I didn't have too much trouble getting the overdrive on, but I did have a bit of trouble with the lay shaft because it kept slipping out of place, and that was a bit tricky with the dummy lay shaft that I made. However, I'm pretty pleased that I've done that. So that's a pretty big thing, really. Big step. Next thing is the engine.